Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts has been told that putting SAA in business rescue was the best decision. It saved the airline from being liquidated and brought in a strategic equity partner. The committee also heard that delays in finalising the sale of a 51% stake in SAA makes it difficult for the airline to receive a much-needed financial injection. For more on this, we're now joined by aviation analyst and editor of SA Flyer magazine, Leitch, and he joins us via our video line. Guy, thank you so much for joining us here on SABC News this evening. Of course, we saw there, when it comes to SAA, that matter being discussed before Scope today, and basically coming out, if you heard that intro, saying that, basically placing SAA was the best decision because it saved it from business rescue. Do you agree?
Yeah, hi, nice to be with you. Well, absolutely. In fact, it was almost it took the government's hand to be forced before they would put it into business rescue. It was Solidarity who back in 2017 at first threatened to put it into business rescue to try and protect the jobs of its members. And Pravin Gordhan at the time had absolutely refused to consider it, saying that he would rather bankrupt the whole company rather than put it into business rescue. Well, and then ultimately his hand was forced because, the airline simply completely and utterly ran out of money. And then, of course, COVID happened. So it was the right move, undoubtedly.
And of course, we also heard from SAA in Parliament today saying that, the finalisation of, the sale of SAA, that 51% stake, is quite crucial in the running of SAA because, it makes it difficult for them to get any financial injection. Why has it been so difficult to finalise that 51% sale of the airline?
You're 100% correct in that it is absolutely essential for SAA's further growth that it gets this 3 billion rand additional cash injection. The way that it's currently planned is through the CATSA consortium. My problem is that I don't think that this deal is ever going to happen. Although Pravin Gordhan keeps promising, the last promise he made was that it would have happened by the end of March this year. Well, that's completely unrealistic. He's still promising pretty much that it will happen by the end of this year or early next year. That is completely unrealistic in my view as well. We're not seeing any signs from where we sit that they've applied to change the Act of Parliament that creates SAA, which would have to be changed. They have to change the aircraft operating licenses. That would also take about 18 months. So I don't see that this CATSA deal is going to happen anytime soon. And without it, the airline can't grow. The airline is already stretched to breaking point. It desperately needs funds to modernise and expand its fleet.
What direction is needed for SAA to fully recover and to make it a more lucrative, a business in this country, and for it to regain its strength once again to be the airline it used to be?
Yeah, I'm afraid I think it's extremely unlikely that we will ever see SAA being the carrier it used to be. It's lost too much ground against its major competitors, most specifically Ethiopian, but also all the rest of the airlines. While it was closed, it wasn't able to recover from COVID. It's still absolutely hamstrung by a lack of finance. And all the other airlines have climbed in and eaten its lunch. Also, we saw a complete change in the way airlines operate. This happened more than 10 years ago, and it's now the hub and spoke model, and that gives Ethiopian an advantage that SAA can never compete against, because SAA, as we well know, is located down here at the bottom end of Africa and doesn't have a natural hub, except possibly as a feeder onto South America from the Far East. Now it's just for this month started that route, but it's never going to be able to fly competitively back to the United States, even back to Europe. Those routes, I think, are long gone, and it's not. It just doesn't have the equipment. It doesn't have the feed. It doesn't have the feed to get passengers into its seats to be able to do that any longer. So the most it can really hope for is to be a regional carrier. The only route of significance that I'm looking for it to expand next is Johannesburg-Perth, and it doesn't have the aircraft for that. We won't have it unless it comes to the taxpayer and borrows another 20 billion rand, or maybe to Harrods.
Yeah, and of course, hearing from today in Parliament and those who are within SAA, I mean, they are talking a different game, and they're saying that, SAA is recovering, and, it has the potential to add more routes, and clearly you disagree with this.
No, it has the potential to add more routes. As I said, internationally, the Perth route is there for the picking, and it needs to really up its game. It's opened Sao Paulo with much fanfare, but it hasn't got critical mass on that route yet. It's only flying twice a week from Johannesburg and twice a week from Cape Town. That is not okay. In airline business, you need to own a route. You need to fly every day to a destination, otherwise people will use other airlines. They want the convenience of being able to fly whatever day they want to fly. So SAA is, I'm really worried that it's doing this as a flag waving exercise, and it's not really profitable. So it hasn't got any much further natural expansion to go. And as I said, the key constraint at this stage is really it just doesn't have the fleet. It's got obsolete 20-year-old Airbuses for the long-haul routes. It's the Airbus A340s are. They've got obsolete in-flight entertainment. They're fuel guzzlers, and it can't afford to buy new aircraft. Probably Gordon promised that it wouldn't come back to the taxpayer. So far, he's at least honoured that promise. But the airline reported to Parliament a few months ago that it lost 150 million rand over 3 months. So you can't really extrapolate 3 months into a full year. But it's still not a good sign that the airline is not really making the money it needs to be viable. I think if I can just continue here a little bit on this line, at what cost should the airline, can the airline operate to the taxpayer? Well, obviously it shouldn't operate at any loss at all. But there is a case to be made that the airline does have a useful function in terms of developing trade routes that might not otherwise be profitable. It provides a useful development function and so on. So before Dudumiyeni arrived, the airline was losing about R1 billion a year. That wasn't really allowed, but it was manageable. After she took over and the state capture took in and there was whole-scale looting, the airline losses increased to R6 billion a year, which is why it was completely unsustainable and ultimately went to the business rescue. We were not able to, at this stage, I can't see a recovery from that viewpoint, so that I don't think us in the near future we will ever be the #1 airline to Africa again. We're not going to be able to catch up to Ethiopian, for instance.
And, dealing with the latest also coming out from Parliament is, SIU telling Parliament that they've been able to recoup at least 14 million rand in its SAA investigation. It also now cites that it may also be able to at least gain back at least 3.4 billion rand. What do you make of that investigation of trying to recoup some of the monies lost by SAA?
Well, I think it's fantastic that the SIU is actually paying its way, but I'm afraid I can't agree with you that it will recover the 3.4 billion. That's the amount that it's identified. Yes, it's recovered 14 billion. There might be a little bit more, but it's never going to be able to recover anything significant unless it gets successful prosecutions. And I think that what we've seen with this whole SIU presentation to SCOPA, to the Parliamentary Standing Committee, there's nothing particularly new. Most of this information came out in the Zondo Commission. But it's in a sense, it's a frustration from the SIU saying, guys, we've got all this information. It's actionable, but the NPA is sitting on its hands. It's doing absolutely nothing. I'm sensing a real sense of frustration that time is going by and people are getting off scot-free with their enormous and wide-scale malfeasance. The piece of information that jumped out at me was that Airbus paid back 824 million rand on their on cancelled pre-delivery payments because we cancelled the order for 10 Airbus A320s. That money's just got lost. Apparently, one of the board members and one of the employees is suspected of taking that money. But that's a huge amount of money. Why on earth is no action being taken here to actively prosecute this lot? I think that's the real sense of frustration here.
Mr. Leitch, thank you so much for your time.